these three players. So, judged by the Premier League rules, you're only allowed 17 foreign players. We currently have 21 now in our squad. So if you look at this graphic here, you'll see the makeup of the squad, and you see 21 players there that are foreign, which means it has to be stripped down by 4 players to be registered in time for the Premier League campaign. And so what that takes into account is foreign players. Under 21 players don't need to be registered, and it needs to be a maximum of 25, not taking into account under 21 players. So as you can see here, the makeup of the squad, you've got Kinski and Dubravka in goal, Porro, Gray, right back, Van Hecke, Danso, Kota Takai, centre back, Van der Ven, Senesi and Davis at left centre back, Robertson, Adogi, Souza, Fernandes, Bergvall, Sarr, Tonali, Bentancur in the midfield, Maddison, Gallagher, Javi, Deki in the 10, Koulibaly, Savinho, Gakpo, Tel, Odegaard on the wings, Marmoush, Solanke and Richarlison up top. So that number of 21 that you can see on the right hand side of the screen needs to be cut down to 17. There obviously are a few players on there that Spurs are looking to get out the door, Pape Matar Sarr being one of them. So I guess you can talk about Pape Matar Sarr being one of the first names out the door. What's interesting about this is that the debate that a lot of Spurs fans have been having over the past few weeks about Solanke and Richarlison. So judging by this, it's actually not even a debate anymore. I've always been saying that I want Solanke to go and Richarlison to stay, but actually, Richarlison has to go now.
So the squad options force our hand, kind of, because if Solanke goes, all of a sudden, well, you need to replace him with an English player potentially, and that becomes very difficult.
21 player, yeah.
And Troy Parrett's just gone to Real Betis, so he's off the table.
Yeah.
So I think it makes for me, I think it makes sense to keep hold of Solanke anyway, just because if I think him and Marmoush would strike up a better partnership together potentially, and I think they offer something quite different. Whereas Richarlison, he's obviously more of a goal scorer, he's a fox in the box, but I think his overall play hampers us just a little bit too much. And I know he's done us well, he's helped save us from relegation, and I love Rishi, and he's full of passion, but I think if we can get the best out of Solanke, I think we're better off having him in the squad anyway. But obviously this issue does force our hand a bit. There's talks of Everton coming in for him. Let's see if anything materialises there, but it looks like he's going to have to be out the door. And I think once we put it, if once this signing happens, if it happens, and we put it to Rishi saying, look, our hands are tied here, you're going to have to go, otherwise you're going to be out the squad. I think at that point he starts to, try find a move.
Yeah. So that obviously leaves us Sarr and Richarlison, which we need to find 2 more players out the squad. And I guess an obvious one here is Kota Takai.
Yeah. He'll be gone.
You got Davis, you got Senesi, you got Danso. The thing that's actually working for Danso is that he is counted as homegrown because he spent time in his English academy. Andy Robertson actually isn't counted as homegrown. And obviously Martin Dubravka makes me think, why did we actually sign Dubravka? Bit of a silly signing when we could have signed just an English keeper to take that spot. We should have found an English keeper.
Well, there was links to Jason Steele, wasn't there? Who's obviously worked with De Zerbi before. So that probably would have been an obvious one if we could have got that over the line. And maybe that helps ease the burden on this homegrown problem.
So if we can cross out Sarr, Richarlison and Kota Takai, that's 3. So now we need to find 1 more player that's not going to be registered for next season, or we need to sell. And obviously what comes to mind is the players that have long-term injuries. Kulusevski, back in somewhat training, but we don't know when he's going to be back. Javi Simmons, definitely not going to play in this calendar year. And Wilson Odegaard, probably at best late December, January, around about that time. So I guess you're looking at one of those players, because I don't think you can sell Bentancur with the midfield options. Bergvall doesn't count because he's under 21. Who else is there?
Yeah,
there's no one else that can go.
Everyone else is pretty indispensable, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you have to make a tough decision. Obviously, I think with Javi, for now, it's not that much of a tough decision. He knows he's not going to play. We're not going to expect him to play before the new year. So I think he has to be. It makes sense for him to be left out. You spoke about Odegaard. that's obviously an option, but he's set to probably be back around November time. Well, back in training anyway, hopefully, and be an option. So it makes more sense at the moment to leave out Xavi than Odegaard. The funny thing is, maybe in January, you might think about selling Odegaard to make way for Xavi, depending on what kind of state Odegaard is in. But Odegaard coming into the squad, being in a squad with Gakpo, Tel, Kudus and Savinho, he's going to find it very difficult to get minutes. Not just to get minutes when... It's a bit like Dragusin. Coming back from the ACL, you need those minutes to get back up to speed. And Dragusin just never really got them, or was never able to. So he was never really able to get back up to speed. And then when he did play, he was so rusty and he looked awful because he was recovering from this injury and never was able to get the minutes to come back. So Odegaard might suffer from that, and he might need maybe if it's just a loan in January, maybe to play somewhere for 6 months, or even selling. I think that's probably what we do. We probably just leave Xavi out till Jan, keep Odegaard in, see what happens in November, and then in January you probably loan him out.
So I mean, for argument's sake, I think you're right. That's probably what they'll do is take Xavi out and leave Odegaard there. But I don't think Odegaard will see many minutes. But for argument's sake, we'll take Odegaard out, because by the end of the season it will be Odegaard out and Xavi Simons will be reintegrated back in the squad. So we can put a cross by Wilson Odegaard's name, and then that is kind of what you're left with if we bring on.
So it also means if we want to sign a foreign right back, then someone else has to make way.
100%. One in, one out after this.
Unless they're English.
Unless they're English or under 21.
Yeah.
So this is kind of what you're left with now, with 17 foreign players. The foreign players are Kinski, Dubravka, Robertson, Porro, Udogie, Van der Ven, Senesi, Van Heck, Fernandes, Tonali, Bentancur, Kulusevski, Kudus, Xavi, Gakpo, Savinho and Marmoush. It brings an interesting conversation about the midfield, though, because Bergvall is obviously under 21, so he doesn't need to be registered. Looking at this, do you not think that we actually need to keep Bergvall now instead of sell him? Because if we sell Bergvall, obviously Archie Gray then is covering two positions. Mm-hmm. Is that enough?
Not ideally. I mean, I think it's probably a situation it might be all right until January, and then you reassess and see if you need to sign someone and if it's a problem. Obviously, we are playing one game a week, so it does ease the burden on the squad. You might be able to get away with it till January. I think over the whole course of the season, it would be a real struggle. And obviously, we do pick up unlucky injuries, which we do tend to do in the positions that we are most vulnerable in. That seems to be how it works for Tottenham.
How many times at the end of the transfer window have we spoken about situations like this, and a week later it comes to pass?
Look, for me, I want to keep Bergvall. I mean, I think if we want to rotate Fernandes, for me, I don't know if Bentancur and Tonali as a pivot works that well. I don't know if they have the kind of ability that maybe Bergvall does have on the ball together. I think Fernandes is going to be a real difference when it comes... him and Tonali is obviously perfect, because Tonali does have that technical ability, but he's not as obviously exciting and forward-thinking as a Fernandes, who obviously will try things, carry the ball, always looking forward, always be positive. Tonali will be kind of the mature guy there, looking to stop counter-attacks, will play the ball forward when it's right, but all in a controlled manner, whereas Fernandes will be a bit different. So, for me, if you're rotating Fernandes, Bergvall would be the guy, because you need someone who's going to have that energy, that forward-thinking, that, risk-taking factor. And if you pair Tonali with a Bentancur, are we just going to be a bit stale in there? That's what I worry about. Maybe Gray not, but still, Gray also seems to be a bit more of a protector rather than a guy who's always looking forward. But I think he is probably more forward-thinking than a Bentancur. So I think it probably works maybe a bit better with Tonali than Bentancur will. But from that point of view, if Fernandes does pick up an injury and we don't have Bergvall in the squad, that's a bit of a concern for me.
Yeah, exactly. And also you've got the added aspect of Conor Gallagher, who's going to have to be utilised in the 10 a lot in the first part of the season, where he would have been an option a bit deeper, but probably not, because he's going to have to be utilised in the 10. So I just don't think we can sell Bergvall because of these aspects, and particularly what you're saying as well in terms of fit. And the way I see it, Tonali and Bergvall and Bentancur are competing, and Mateus Fernandes and Bergvall will be competing as well, and Gray will be used. I guess it just depends, doesn't it, about Porro and Gray. Like, is Porro literally going to be asked to play every single game? You want 2 players in every position. That's what De Zerbi said. So judging by what he said there, then we have to keep Bergvall, in my opinion.
I think it's what's obviously Bergvall's own feelings come into it, and he has at the beginning of the summer pushed to leave. That seems to have quietened down a bit. We don't seem like reports like we do with Savinho every day about him leaving, and they're just trying to. It's not like, it doesn't seem like his camp is actively trying to force it like maybe it seems like with Savinho. With both. Although the story hasn't got away totally, there's still reports of obviously Forest and Newcastle, and there seems to be there's going to be a lot of movement around the Premier League in this last 12 days. So you can't completely rule it out. What I would say about Bergvall is he's obviously had a pretty decent pre-season. He's played quite a lot. Fernandes has been playing in the behind closed doors friendly. He's had these fatigue issues. If I'm Bergvall, if I'm not starting that game against Brentford, I think I'm going back to Zerbi and saying, I've had it. Like, I'm going to push to leave again. I'm going to try and force him away. If Bergvall does start against Brentford, and then obviously has a good game and keeps his place for the time being anyway, until Fernandes is either takes his place or whatever, then at that point, at least he might have the confidence that if he is playing well and he is earning his spot, De Zerbi will play him. But if he's onto a fool's errand, and I think that will be proven if he doesn't start against Brentford, then maybe he'll feel like, look, this is a hiding to nothing. I'm never going to get what I need here, and I might just push to leave and get somewhere started. Obviously, he knows that they haven't bought Fernandes and Tonali not to play. I think he's not stupid. That's why he has asked to leave. But obviously, as a player, you need to feel that if you deserve the spot and you deserve to be playing, you will be playing, regardless of who you signed. And I think Bergvall will be feeling he's had a good pre-season. He's been starting the last few friendlies in the first team, and he played well, so he should start that first game. So I think might know a bit on Saturday.
Look, I don't know about that. I think it's just one game. You know, there's a long season ahead where there's going to be minutes. You know, Mateus Fernandes is not going to play every single game. And, you know, when De Zerbi envisaged this team, he's obviously envisaged it with these 2 as a starting players. That's why we've signed them both for so much money. So I think Bergvall is the next in line after Mateus Fernandes. And regardless if he starts this game, with this squad, he's still going to see so many minutes throughout the season, whether it be from the bench and starting as well. So I don't think it all just rests on this one game.
It doesn't all rest on it. I think it gives an indication, though, for Bergvall himself what De Zerbi is feeling. Because if Bergvall doesn't start, then it sends the message to Bergvall, like, it doesn't matter how good you've been or if you've been starting, once Fernandes is fit, you're out. And obviously, if he gets that feeling that whatever he does, he's not going to play, that's what brought him to ask to leave at the beginning of the summer, because he probably felt like, they're bringing these players in, I ain't going to get my opportunities here, I ain't going to get the minutes that I want. So I feel like that's just my feeling. I feel if he doesn't start, that's the message it sends to him, and that's probably the wrong message he wants. If he does start, I think it sends a message, look, if you're playing well, I'm going to give you game time.
Yeah, but I think it was a different situation there as well, because we had more midfielders on the books. You know, Pape Matar obviously going to be going out the door. Maybe he was thinking he was competing with Conor Gallagher as well. You know, I think it was a different situation, and I think looking at this, he's going to get so many minutes throughout the season, like so many, and it will help his development. And I think his development will go up this season, even if he's not, a complete starter every single week. So I don't know if Bergvall's going to be looking at it like that. I'm sure he's going to trust De Zerbi in how he wants to do things. I really hope he doesn't leave, man.
Yeah, me too. I'm just looking at the situation. The window is still open while this is all going on. Yeah. So obviously, he's got a decision to make. If he doesn't start on Saturday, and he's been starting the whole preseason, he's got a decision. Do I just push to leave because he ain't starting me? So even when I'm playing well, he ain't going to start me. So I've got a decision. Do I go somewhere where I will start every week? Or do I trust that if I'm playing well, I'm going to be starting in this team? And right now, he didn't start me the first game, even though I've been playing in preseason and playing well. So that's my point. It just gives him a decision. If you give him a couple of games before the season, before the window closes, that just probably gives him that trust that he's going to play.
The reality is he needs the offer to come in to even contemplate that decision. And obviously it looks as though...
Well, he could force it and try and lower the price down.
He could do. But it looks as though Spurs are not going to be kind of lowballed for Lucas Bergvall like we were for Jed Spence and like we were for Cuti Romero. It's not that kind of situation. So,
which is I'm happy about.
So we'll see. We'll see how it goes and how it progressive. But I get a feeling that Bergvall might end up staying.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I really hope so, because I think he's got so much talent. He's still so young. I think he's shown what he's capable of in a short space of time. Coming from the Swedish league, it's not easy. And I think he's adapted really well for a player of his age. And he's got a lot of game time. He's gone through a lot of that development. He's still got so much to work on. I get that. He's nowhere near the finished article. But I would really like him to be part of the squad. And I think under De Zerbi, he can really grow. Because we just saw, he had a few months under Ange and he really grew. And obviously under Frank, he stagnated horribly because of the man. I think I would say mostly because of the manager. And so now we've got a manager who's going to get him to be brave again. And I think we're going to see a better Bergvall.
Yeah. And it's interesting, actually, looking forward about the aspect that we were speaking about before, how it's one in, one out in terms of the foreign players. What I could envisage next summer is Spurs probably look to move on Rodrigo Bentancur and maybe even potentially bring in an Alex Scott. And if you bring in an Alex Scott, let's say he doesn't go anywhere this summer, and you bring in Scott for Bentancur, that opens another space for you for a foreign player to come in, which adds numerically to the squad as well. So I think that would be fantastic proposition.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, we're talking about in a year's time, a lot can change, but that would be amazing. I mean, I'd love to bring in Alex Scott. Let's hope he doesn't go anywhere between now and the end of the window. With it sounds like City are circling for a centre mid. So
but if Bergvall does go this summer, that's what Spurs should do this summer. Go for Alex Scott this summer.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, that is the kind of makeup of the squad. It is a bit tight in terms of the foreign players, but that is how we envisage what the squad will look like come the 1st or 2nd of September. And just looking at this squad as it is now with the 17 foreign players, 2 players in every position, and quality in every position, quality cover in every position as well.
But it's going to be interesting. I think in a year's time, let's say what we hope happens, and we get Champions League football next season. I think you could see Davis out the door, Danso out the door, Bentancur out the door, maybe one of those 10s, probably, maybe even 2 of them, depending on how fit they come back and what the situation is. It could Gallagher or one of Gallagher, Maddison or Decky, could they be leaving? So there could be a lot of movement next summer to upgrade.
Yeah, absolutely. So exciting times ahead, people. Let us know your thoughts of, because this is most likely how the squad is going to look like at the end of the transfer window. So let us know your thoughts in the comment section below.